So the next speaker is Mei Ling TNG. Okay, the Singapore, she is the Deputy Director of Department of Sustainability Strategies at the National Environmental Agencies. She looked at developing a longer-term strategies and driving sustainability efforts in waste management, energy efficiency, and climate change. Okay, this include policies to manage priorities waste streams such as packaging waste, including plastic and food waste, as well as building industry capacity through partnership and program to support the sustainability initiatives. She will be talking about Singapore Resource Sustainability Act and its role toward circular economies. Please welcome Ms. Mei Ling TNG.
Thanks, Paul, for the kind introduction. Can I just check? Can you hear me?
Yes, you can share your screen.
Okay, great. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. So maybe I'll start.
Perfect.
So again,
yes.
Great.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mei Ling from Singapore. First of all, I would like to thank ProGreen and UNEP for inviting me to share about Singapore's Resource Sustainability Act and then its roles towards circular economy, as well as what we are doing as part of our effort to move towards a zero waste nation. I think the earlier presenter have also shared extensively on the e-waste, food waste, and plastic waste management. So I'll keep my presentation simple. So I'll start by giving a background of Singapore's situation and the constraints that we have. I'm pretty sure many of you are familiar that we are just a little red dot on the map with a land area of slightly more than 700 kilometers square. So the rate of waste growth is really one of our major concerns. So from the graph, you can see that the increasing population and GDP growth have increased the amount of waste disposed of about 7-fold over the past 40 years. So being small, the scarcity of our land also poses another challenge. So with competing needs over, say, housing, transport, every plot of land needs to be carefully planned and allocated. So we only have one offshore landfill, which is the Semakau landfill, and it's only projected to last about a decade or so. So if the rate of waste generation continues, we'll have to identify or go and find a new landfill every 30 to 35 years, which is not sustainable. So let's look briefly at what happens to the waste generated in Singapore each day. So we do have about 16,000 tons of waste generated daily by the industrial and commercial premises as well as household in Singapore. So licensed waste collector will send the recyclables and waste to the respective recycling and waste disposal facility. So if you look at in terms of the overall percentage, about 52% of our waste is being recycled. About 45% is incinerated at the waste to energy plant, and the rest of the non-incinerable waste are being sent to our landfill. So really, we need to cope with the constant increasing volume of waste over the years. So we have enhanced our waste management system and to move towards really a zero waste nation. So to do this, we have adopted 4 strategies. The first one is minimization and prevention of waste at source through the promotion of efficient use of resources in the production process, as well as reduce wastage at home. Second is through recycling, where we can maximize the resource recovery from waste and also encourage a producer to adopt better recycling methods from themselves. Third is through our waste treatment method of waste to energy, where we adopt innovative technology to maximize energy recovery, minimize the ash generated, and also the land use. And then finally, to minimize the waste that is sent eventually to our landfill, one of the areas that we have looked into is to come out with alternative use for ash. So this can help us to maximize our landfill lifespan. So achieving our vision of a zero waste nation really requires partnership with the people, the public and the private sector. So as such, our zero waste master plan that was launched in 2019 was developed through a co-creation process. We have set for ourselves ambitious target to extend the landfill of the lifespan of our landfill to beyond 2035. Reduce the amount of waste that was sent to the landfill by 30% by 2030. And this is really on top of our target to reach a 70% overall recycling rate. But we know that we can't achieve this target alone. Hence, we do need businesses and individuals to also play their part. And then we believe that this is achievable if we manage to accomplish what was being set up in the master plan. So Singapore, as an economy, we also launched the Singapore Green Plan 2030 earlier this year. So it charts concrete and ambitious sectoral plans and target in the 5 pillars that you see in the slides over the next decade. So it will position us to achieve a net zero emission as soon as viable, and also strengthen our commitment to global sustainability development and also climate action efforts. So if you see under the sustainable living pillar, which is about saving resources and energy, a way of life, we have further stretched our existing target by reducing the amount of waste sent to landfill by 20% by 2026, and subsequently by 30% by 2030. And we do know that adopting a circular economy approach to close our resource loop, turn waste into treasure, is one of the ways to do so. And I think similar to many economies, we have framed our thinking of a circular economy along the lines of sustainable production, sustainable consumption, and sustainable waste to resource management. And to actually change from a take, make, use, and throw, which is a linear approach, into a circular approach. So really, with this in mind, we have enacted the landmark Resource Sustainability Act to give legislative effect to new measure to address our key priority waste stream, namely packaging waste, including plastic, food waste, and e-waste. This waste stream have relatively high generation and low recycling rate. In addition, e-waste itself also have potentially harmful substances that will negatively impact our health and environment when they are being disposed of improperly. So we feel that this Resource Sustainability Act, or RSA, is really an integral part of Singapore's strategy to build a sustainable, resource efficient, and climate resilient nation. So I'll elaborate a bit on our priority waste stream in the subsequent slide. So for e-waste, we have implemented the Extended Producer Responsibility Scheme, or EPR, on 1st July this year. I think EPR will be familiar to some of you. So under the EPR framework, producer will bear the physical and financial responsibility for the collection and proper end-of-life treatment of discarded regulated electrical and electronic equipment, or EEE in short. So for a start, we'll start with large producer of these 5 categories that you see on the left-hand side of the slide. These 5 product categories will cover about 90% of the consumer e-waste products in Singapore. So in GIS, they are selected based on 3 criteria: the potential impact to the environment, its generation volume, and the extent of public demand or visibility. So as part of scoping the regulated products, extensive consultation were conducted with the stakeholders. So in terms of responsibility, we have 3 groups, as you can see on the slide. The producer will be responsible for the collection and recycling of the e-waste. Producer of consumer EEE can fulfill this obligation by joining a producer responsibility scheme, or PRS. Producer of non-consumer EEE would then have to provide free take-back service upon request, and also properly recycle the e-waste that they collect. For us, NEA, we have appointed a PRS operator to coordinate the collection and proper treatment of consumer e-waste on behalf of the producer. The third group, the retailer, being the key touch points for consumer, will then have to provide free take-back services when they deliver new products. And large retailer will also have to provide in-store collection services. For instance, if they have a floor area above 300 meters square, they need to have an e-waste collection bin within the store. So moving on to packaging waste, this slide shows the overview of the initiative that we have to close the packaging loop. So under the Resource Sustainability Act, we have introduced new regulation on reporting that we require large producer of packaged products to report their packaging data as well as their 3R plans. I will elaborate a bit more in the next slide. So separately, we have an industry-led capability development program. The packaging partnership program that is set up is a partnership between us, NEA, and the industry association. This is really to support companies in fulfilling their reporting obligation, as well as facilitate the exchange of best practices in hope to help them level up and also adopt best practices in sustainable packaging waste management. So with all this foundation, we hope to introduce an extended producer responsibility scheme to manage packaging waste, starting with the beverage container return scheme. So as I was saying, under the mandatory packaging reporting framework, producer of packaged product, such as your manufacturer, importer, as well as retailers like supermarket, will be required to submit their packaging data and also their 3R plan, meaning to say their plans to reduce, reuse, or recycle their packaging, and this will be done annually to us. So for a start, the requirement will only be applied to producer of packaged product with an annual turnover of more than 10 million Singapore dollar. This is set so as to minimize the impact on the smaller and the micro enterprise and company. So I hope that this mandatory packaging reporting framework will allow companies to have greater awareness on the potential benefits for waste reduction within their business operation. At the same time, they can be motivated to take action to reduce the amount of waste or amount of packaging that's used, which will help to minimize waste generation at source. For the third priority waste stream, which is the food waste, under the Resource Sustainability Act, we will require owners and operator of commercial and industrial premises, because they are typically the large generator of food waste, to separate and treat their food waste from 2024 onwards. So these large premises will include your hotels, shopping mall, large industry development that have food manufacturer or caterers within them. So these generators will be allowed to choose the waste treatment method that best suit their operation. So for example, they can use an on-site food waste treatment system or send their food waste to an off-site facility for treatment. And also starting this year, we require developers of new large and commercial industrial premises where large amount of food waste are expected to be generated to allocate space for on-site food waste treatment in their design plan. So the adoption of on-site treatment system will allow for closed-loop food waste management, because they generate the food waste on-site and then they treat it on-site. And then this food waste can be converted, say, into compost for landscaping purposes, or even wastewater for non-potable uses. And maybe I'll also share a bit about the building recycling capability, because to support our broader policy and strategy, we're also developing our local recycling capability. So in the area of plastic waste, we are adopting a circular economy, and closing our plastic or packaging loop will allow us to create downstream opportunity. So currently, Singapore has mechanical recycling plant to treat our industrial plastic waste. And similar, I think the Japanese presenter also mentioned that about chemical recycling. This is something that we're also pursuing as a solution to treat plastic that are not suitable for mechanical recycling. For instance, your contaminated plastic together with food or with other single-use plastic. Because we feel that chemical recycling can potentially convert this plastic into higher value product like pyrolysis oil, which can be used or upgraded as feedstock and put into a manufacturing process. So in this aspect, we are working closely with the government as well as industry partner to look into establish a pilot plant that will help to contribute and also anchor this chemical recycling value chain in Singapore within the next few years. Last but not least, we are also looking at the use of the incineration bottom ash that's typically sent to our Semakau landfill as building materials in non-structural application, and we coin this new sand. So we feel that this is a crucial piece, as successful use of this ash as a material will help reduce the waste residue that's sent to our landfill, thereby helping us to prolong the lifespan of our landfill. And yes, this concludes my presentation, and I hope you have a better understanding of the waste management system in Singapore, and a welcome question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Tung, for the presentation about the overall pictures about waste management, including e-waste, plastic and food waste in Singapore. Okay, and so we have a couple of questions from the audience.
Sure.
So the first one is actually it's in the chat box. So do producers have to provide a free pickup of large appliances, such as refrigerator from households, or consumers have to deliver that by themselves to the designated locations?
Okay, so producer, okay, in Singapore, we do not really have a local producer. I mean, as you may know, most of our stuff are imported. So the retailers, for instance, you know, those electrical shop that you buy your products from, if you are more than 300 meters square, you do need to provide a designated e-waste collection bin. So that, for instance, I can actually go down there and deposit my small items like my lamps and my bulbs or my battery. So for big items like how the fridges and the aircon, there's no way for me to bring that. So what retailers need to do is that when I buy something from this retailer, they deliver the new fridge to my place. They're supposed to take back the old one from me. And then after taking back, they are obligated to send it to a licensed recycler to make sure that, you know, it's properly recycled. Yeah. So it's not really the producer, but it's the retailers that have to provide these free pickups.
Okay, so the retailer is responsible, okay, for the product. So the second question is related to the first question, like existing producers responsible for the off-finish appliances from the out-of-business producers?
Out of business producers, you mean producers that are no longer in
business, maybe, yeah.
Okay, so for instance, what the producer actually needs to do for consumer equipment is they have to join a producer responsibility organization. So we appointed someone. So under the producer responsibility obligation, you're supposed to pay a fee because you're supposed to be financially so responsible. So for instance, you pay a fee today, and maybe 3 years down the road, for whatever reason, you're out of business, the fee has been paid, and then the operator is supposed to make sure that whatever you place in the market today gets recycled 3 years or 4 years down the road. Yeah. Okay. So whatever they need to pay are things that they are putting into market today, so that this will finance whatever so-called e-waste that's being generated when the equipment reaches the end of the lifespan. Okay. Hope that addressed the point. Okay.
So regarding the food waste, that laws required that the big facility must have like a food waste facility on site. Is there like a government subsidies provide like funding for supporting to build these type of facilities, or this must be like pay off their own pocket? Like that?
So thanks for the question. So if you realize that in my presentation, I mentioned that it will start from 2024 because it's to tie in with the operation of our on-site treatment facility. So what we are currently doing is that while we are waiting for the law to take place, we're encouraging people to actually adopt food waste segregation. And we do provide incentive and funding if you choose to actually have an on-site system and then to treat your food waste starting today. So that will help to actually move the industry for them to segregate and treat their food waste faster. Yeah.
Okay. So you mean they can apply for funding or something, or?
Yes, they can apply for funding today because the law hasn't kicked in yet, and then they can do voluntary. We welcome them. But then once the law is in a couple of years' time, we may review whether there's a need for incentive lah. So we do encourage industry. If you're looking, you have space and you're looking to segregate your food waste, please come to us for funding. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So will Singapore have any like restriction on the single-use plastics consumptions in the future?
Yeah. That's a very good question. Yeah. So what is happening now currently is that we adopt a consultative approach. So earlier, I think last year, we have a citizens work group on reducing excessive disposable. So we view plastic bags, single-use straw, everything as disposable. And then we conduct a kind of citizens work group chat with members of the public. And then one of the recommendation is to look at having a charge on single-use carrier. So this is something that we are studying really seriously, looking at the pricing module, the pricing approach, like how much to charge. Is it 1 bag, 2 bag? So currently we are doing a public consultation, and hopefully sometime next year we could have something that is firm up for sharing. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So another question is regarding about the beverage containers returning schemes. So will that include plastic packaging like multi cups as well?
That's a very good question. Yeah. So I think a lot of countries, like if you look at European or even I think Pan Pacific, they do have a scheme called a deposit refund. So basically I buy a bottle of water and I pay say 10 cents or 20 cents. Then after I finish that, I return the bottle, I will get my deposit back. So such a model is something that we are also studying, looking at what to cover. For instance, Singapore, I think like Bangkok is very hot. Should we look at milk that will spoil easily? Or for instance, should we look at glass, Tetra Pak? So currently we're doing a consultancy study together with stakeholder engagement to look at what is the scope, type of beverage I should cover, what is the scope, and more importantly, I think for people is what is the deposit that they have to pay. So this is something that we are also thinking of firming out the framework and probably implement it sometime in 2023 with everything set up. Yeah. Okay. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, so another question for myself. So currently, what is the garbage fee scheme in Singapore? It's like a fixed per month, or there varies by volumes like in other countries?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So it differs if you're a business or if you're a household. So I understand that for Japan, the household, they have tier, but for us, household, Singapore is a high-rise apartment, and then there's the landed, which is the house kind. So if you're there's two kind of tiering a flat fee. If you are staying in those high-rise apartment, you pay one fee. If you're staying in this bigger house, the low one, you pay another flat fee. And then for businesses, it's a little different. I go by the volume of the container. So for instance, I have 60 liter, 230 liter, 160. So there's a charge for each of the size. Yeah, so we adopt quite a different approach. First, we are thinking that businesses, usually they are larger generator. So by having those volume based, you actually entice them to reduce their waste. Whereas for those staying in high-rise apartment or public housing, we have also to bear in mind that whether those lower income group, the more vulnerable groups, are they being covered? Yeah. So currently the price or the disposal fee are fixed as such.
Okay. So during the public hearing of this new act, was there any concerns from the businesses that they raised during the public hearings? Because that's typically the case for any law on an environment being implemented, because it's going to have an impact on the businesses. Definitely.
So in terms of carving or even coming out of the scope of the act, there's extensive consultation with key stakeholder group, be it especially the producer, because e-waste is the first one that we actually roll out the EPR. So to them, they actually matters to them that, how much is the producer fee? What is the model? Am I taking that on my own? So a lot of extensive consultation is being carried out. And also on the side of the public, they need to know that what is e-waste and what is not e-waste. I mean, some education is needed. So that part will also have certain consultation with them to make them understand why we are doing so. So it's a long process that I would say as part of enacting this, but it's an important step for us if you want to move towards, a sustainable or circular economy nation. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. That all the questions that I have right now at the moment. Thank you very much for your presentation, Ms. Thinh.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay.